This week we're reading An Offer from a Gentleman by Julia Quinn, otherwise known as Handshoes and the Dong.
Hi readers, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine, the book pod where we celebrate the heroines we love
And roast the ones we don't. We'll find you the best 5-star reads, the spiciest romance, and save you from the overhyped DNFs.
If it's romance, we'll read it.
Or watch it.
We like every flavor. So grab your favorite drink and get cozy. Welcome to Season 4.
We are talking about Cinderella in Regency outfits. When was Cinderella? My local historian. What is Cinderella?
Fun fact about Cinderella stories, they're international. So I think almost every culture has some form of Cinderella story.
I love it at surface level, but then when you think about it, I don't know that I love that there's like the universalness of like a young woman being subjugated.
Downtrodden woman who's rescued by, insert wealthy or privileged or powerful love interest.
Interesting.
I believe there's a Chinese Cinderella that's pretty well known. Don't quote me on that because I'm not entirely certain. Then there's Grimm's Cinderella where she has to, I think her stepsisters cut off their toes to fit into the shoe.
Dog, what?
Yeah, that one's a very gory version. But yeah, there's several. So Cinderella's universal.
When is the Disney Cinderella? Victorian?
When does it take place?
Ish, yeah.
I think it takes place in the 1700s in France.
Okay. And then Regency is the... Okay.
Some part of the 1800s.
Okay. I'm here. Kind of. Half and half.
But this is a slightly spicier version of Cinderella.
I could see that. Well, especially what caught me off guard was the scene where she's accosted. I was like, what is happening? She doesn't have an escort. There's these men taking her outside.
It also seems like one of the darker Julia Quinn Bridgerton novels.
Especially the ending. I was like, I expected it to be protracted a little bit where she would like really suffer. I think that's the romantasy, experience in me. But like, she got thrown in jail. That's fucking bonkers.
Kind of a note on the Bridgerton structure, though. If you have not read all the Bridgerton novels or haven't read any of them, the show has not produced them in the order of the books. So Colin and Penelope's story came out season 3, right? Mm-hmm. This book is technically book 3 in the series. So Colin and Penelope's story, which is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, is book 4. They flip-flopped it.
See, that makes me wonder what Shonda Rhimes for the TV show, what her like projected timeline is, because I would have thought that the last episode, like it'd be kind of like squidgy to do, but the last episode of season 3, Penelope and Colin's storyline should have been the Masquerade Ball so that you could, between the two seasons, have that time jump that's in this one. Though there's a time jump in Colin and Penelope's story too.
Yes, because you see it too, kind of in the 60% mark of this story, where you see Penelope overhear Colin and Benedict bickering over getting married, and that's when Colin has his...
Oh shit, yeah! His like moment of being like a total douchebag,
Yeah.
and then wow, I totally.
And then that's when you have the time jump, and then you have Penelope's story. Because you also have to give enough time for Eloise and Hyacinth and Gregory to all grow up as well.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect because like I feel like Hyacinth, the actress who plays her, is like kind of getting slightly older, but I feel like she's still very young for. She can't be like next season or the season after.
Well, can you imagine if you actually cast actors at the age that they're supposed to be in the books? Wasn't Daphne supposed to be like 18 or 19?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding? No.
No.
That would not fly with modern audiences.
No. Especially, I just watched High School Musical again, and like you have full ass like 26-year-olds playing like 15-year-old. Oh God. Don't get me started on that. But yeah, Offer from a Gentleman.
This episode will focus on the book, and then we'll be covering the first part of the show because it is supposed to be broken up into 2 parts. We'll be covering the show later this month or next month, sometime.
Whenever.
Time isn't real.
Yeah, it's on the horizon at some unspecified point.
But this was your favorite of the...
It was. And I explained to Jordan before we started recording, but I think it's the best only because the pacing kind of got figured out. Like there was major events and then it was over. And then I had big beef with Daphne's storyline just because the way that Shonda Rhimes did it was so much fucking better. And then I like watched the show and then read the book and I was like, this is garbage. And then I felt,
wow, Katie.
Honestly, because like, I don't know. I thought the like ethnicity, nationality, skin color thing was like an excellent like move on Shonda Rhimes' part. It made it so much more interesting and like rich as a storyline. And then the second one, same beef with it. Kate Sharma coming from India, so much more fucking interesting. And then the whole Thunder, she's crying under a table in the book. Dog, catch me outside. That's so pathetic. I'm sorry, God. And then Penelope and Colin's book was okay, but I was meh. And then Francesca's book, there was just too much going back and forth. Just fucking get it over with, please. So this was my favorite.
This was the first Bridgerton book I read.
Really?
Yes.
That's like a pretty high.
I know. So I don't know that I didn't finish the entire Bridgerton series. I could not read Francesca's story. I desperately wanted to love Eloise's story because there's letter writing.
Is that one not good?
I don't want to say not good because I feel like the threshold for good is so skewed these days in publishing that in the scheme of historical romance, it's good enough.
That's fair. Okay.
Part of me, as I was rereading this one, could not help but want something a little bit deeper with a little bit more angst. And I'm like, I just wish I was reading Sherry Thomas or Lisa Kelypas or Julianne Long right now. And it's not because Julia Quinn is not a good writer, and it's not because the story is bad. It's just a different style of historical romance. I feel like this is very lighthearted, made for TV, Hallmark movie.
She does kind of seem allergic to angst. That's like a very good point, because that does seem to be missing in like all of these. And then Shonda Rhimes adds it back in. She's like, nah, girl, you need angst.
Just so you feel a little bit more with the characters, because Sophie has a very dark plight. She's suffering quite a bit.
Yeah, she gets locked in a fucking closet. Like, that just gets like kind of like skated over in the book.
And almost raped by like 3 dudes. And it's still this kind of lighthearted.
What's going on in the bushes over there? I'm going to save you. This is wrong.
But you don't feel like Sophie's terror. You're told Sophie is terrified. And you're told Benedict is angry when that happens. You just don't feel kind of the meat of... Meat is a wrong word.
Oh, no. No, thank you. That's fair.
But yeah, so this was the first book I started with. I loved it. I reread it several times as a teenager, but rereading it now as a little bit more grown up, I'm able to be a little bit more critical of it, I think.
That's fair. I kind of feel like that's all of these books. We maybe need to put our little reading glasses on when we look at them. I just think I haven't read a lot of historical romance.
That actually kind of speaks to one of the points I wanted to make before we get into the
meat?
The meat of the sandwich here.
Hell yeah.
Is that I think Julia Quinn is a great introduction to historical romance. Because it doesn't take itself too seriously, and you're not drowning in historical facts and realism here.
Yeah, that's the part that kind of catches me, like, I don't want a history lesson.
So I think if you are wondering if you would like historical romance, this is a great place to start.
I could see that. Because there is something fun about the idea of Regency. And it's interesting, too. I have tried a couple of recently published kind of like Regency adjacent or like trying to be Regency books. And it's interesting because they're not as well placed with the historical accuracy, and it makes it less enjoyable. Which is, so there's something to be said about that sweet spot between like too much and like not enough, where it doesn't feel real. So like Julia Quinn did figure that out of like, if you just add like a little bit, like they'll be fed and they'll know where they are time wise, but like not enough to like turn them off.
I think you see that in every genre, because you notice that in romantasy, like the writing does not feel like it fits the setting, or in science fiction or in any kind of thing where like it's just slightly off, where it doesn't feel real enough for the world it's supposed to be in.
That's true. Julia Quinn, you figured it out. I want more angst though. Not off the hook.
I want to cry.
This had so many opportunities to cry, though. That's why I'm so excited for Shonda Rhimes to just, like, put her magic in it, and I just am going to feel things.
I hope it stays closer to the plot of this book, though, and I'm really afraid that it's not going to be. But, oh man, should we save it for the synopsis?
No, just tell me right now.
The scene where Sophie is running out of the cottage after she's been taking care of Benedict, I promise we'll explain, readers. And she stumbles upon him in the pond, going for a swim.
Oh, yeah.
There's a preview of that in the trailer.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you see her hiding behind the tree.
Oh, I didn't. Oh my God, because I haven't seen the trailer since reading the book.
Yeah, watch it again. And so if that is the same scene, I am here for it.
Yeah. Oh my God. I am. Okay.
Story time.
Now that that's been established. Though, do you have any books that are similar to this, like Regency, Cinderella-esque? All of those words are like Jordan words.
Stranger in My Arms by Lisa Kelypas is a little bit, it has a divided audience, I would say. It's a little out there, but it kind of has the same kind of heroine who's very kind and a little bit hurt by her family. And that right there is angst if you want it.
I just added to my TBR.
And then there is a book, I forget the title, but it's by Julie Ann Long. And she has kind of a governess, poor heroine type.
Dog, I love those.
I'll put the title in the show notes once I find it. But Julie Ann Long is also a good.
I feel like they're all kind of play on, a stranger in his arms, an offer from a gentleman, a secret love note in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel that. My similar books are kind of
way the fuck out there.
I'm glad that the adjective we were going to use was exactly the same. Okay, so the least crazy is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. This is definitely like a YA book, but it's really fun. Like, I kind of fully enjoyed it. I read all of them in the series. It's like a fantasy sci-fi mix. She's like a half cyborg mechanic, whatever.
I think I've tried several times to read Cinder, and I can never finish it.
It's very firmly YA. The later books I feel like are more fun because there's a Rapunzel kind of thing where she's been locked on the moon in a room by herself, but she's like fully involved in everybody's life from like a drama reality TV show perspective. I love her storyline.
I'm actually intrigued by that one.
Yeah. And then this is where we kind of like hop off the train to batshit crazy land. Rose in Chains.
Explain yourself.
By Julie Soto. I feel like there's tidbits of the Cinderella trope in that where she's like beat down and there's like a rich aristocratic man that comes to save her and they have like a fake weird relationship and not really, but they're like can't ever be together. You know what I mean? It's there. I didn't enjoy it, but a lot of people did enjoy Girls in Chains. And then also The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle.
What the fuck are we doing right now?
This is a mafia romance. It is not great, but I have read this book probably like 4 or 5 times. Very damsel in distress coded. So if you read An Offer from a Gentleman or any kind of Cinderella thing and you're like, no, I want her to hurt like a little bit more and I want like a weird controlling kind of thing, Danielle Laurie.
As you were explaining, you're completely off the wall.
I do have some crazy opinions now and then.
There is one final book. This is kind of a shout out to all my elder millennial readers here. If you grew up rereading Ella Enchanted over and over and over again, I don't think you've read it.
No,
I think it's a little bit older for you. That is a Cinderella story. This is your historical romance version because Ella Enchanted is a romantasy Cinderella.
Okay, so it's like she's just a little bit older in this one.
A little bit older, a little bit more interesting of a male lead, but there you go.
I dig it. I think it's synopsis time.
Sophie Beckett.
Girl. I love all of the stills from the season 4 tidbits of Sophie. She's exactly who I had in my head when I was thinking about when I was like reading this.
It's perfect. And I do think that Julia Quinn does a great job creating unique individual characters, even secondary characters. Everyone has a different personality and you can picture them. So she has a very great storytelling style, especially in her prologues and when she establishes the story. And that's what you get right away, which is Sophie Beckett is this little girl who was dropped off at this nobleman's house in the middle of the night as like a 3-year-old. And Sophie Beckett grew up knowing she was a bastard. Oof. That's kind of the groundwork for the story. Her father, who is an earl, never acknowledges her, but treats her like a ward, makes sure she's educated, she has fine clothes. Then he gets married, 8 years later. And his new wife has 2 daughters from a previous marriage. And the new wife, Araminta. What a bitch! My God.
Crazy lady.
If you watched the Disney live action Cinderella, Kate Blanchett plays the stepmother. And that is who I pictured here.
Fair, that's fair. I am excited because I do feel like she was well-rounded and like her meanness kind of made sense, especially towards the end when we get the full confrontation with the bad guy. But I do feel like she was kind of a bitch for no reason a little bit.
She was definitely a villain to be a villain and not to be a well-rounded character.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how Shonda Rhimes humanizes her a little bit because otherwise it's like you got villain out the yin yang.
And then you have Rosamund, who's the beautiful elder daughter, and then you have Posey, who's the younger.
I love Posey.
Who doesn't love Posey?
I just imagined like a Penelope adjacent cousin kind of thing.
Yep, exactly. And so our Sophie Beckett, she meets her new stepsisters, or who she thinks is going to be her stepsisters, and then Araminta quickly educates her and says, you will never be a daughter of this house. You will stay out of my sight. I never want to talk to you. I never want to hear from you. And then Dad dies because we haven't had enough trauma. And Araminta discovers that the Earl made a clause in his will that says, if you take care of my ward, then you will get an extra 2,000 pounds per annum. Mm-hmm. So it's like 6,000 or 4,000 total.
Yeah, it was like 4,000 without and then like 12,000 or like something where it's like, oh, he's insulting me. Oh, that's why he's insulting me.
And so she has to take care of Sophie until she's 20. Mm-hmm. And the Earl left a dowry for each of the girls.
Yeah. But Araminta, being a total bitch, did not let Sophie in on any of this information. And she's like, I guess you can be a servant in our house. You're not going to get paid though. But you know, that's just where you belong. And you don't have a dowry. This is your life now.
So Sophie is a servant, and she cleans shoes and wipes the floor and does hair. And it's honestly, if you've seen Cinderella, the Disney movie, like that's what we're talking about. That's what this is. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, there is a masquerade ball hosted by the Bridgerton family, and she is helping Araminta and Posey and Rosamund get ready for it. They get off on their carriage, and she comes back into the house, and the housekeeper's like, bitch, I got you.
I love this. Because how vindicating, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, you have been slaving away under this, like, total bitch of a, top of the house. And you're like, you know what? Fuck her. We are going to doll you up and you're going to fucking go to this ball.
I really loved how Sophie was not, like, she has some thoughts, like, I wish I could go to the ball, but she never dwells on it.
Yeah.
It's just so far out of her realm of reality. And it's the housekeeper's like, no, like, you're going to go. We've been plotting this. And Sophie's like, excuse me, what?
I also love the details, too, that at the beginning when they're getting her ready, she, like, comments on how the gloves have her house, like, sigil on them. Dude. And how they're, like, they were packed away with mothballs. And then, halfway through the book, that's the only thing that Benedict remembers. He's like, why did she smell kind of, like, musty?
The way Julia Quinn smacks you in the face with foreshadowing on the gloves.
Ugh.
Obviously, it's not going to be a shoe because we have to be different. Pay attention to the gloves.
I didn't even think about that. That's true. I did not see that is the shoe. I was like, oh, that's so clever. It's like, nah, dog. It's just a hand shoe.
It's a hand shoe.
Hand shoe. There it is.
There's our episode title, Raiders. Oh my God, Katie.
I'm sorry.
Well, she and her hand shoes get in the carriage and go to the ball. She walks in and she's wearing like a silver demi mask. She's got a beautiful silver gown on. And point of fine detail here.
Yeah.
She's wearing Araminta's silver shoes.
Yeah.
Big no-no. Yeah. She knows it's a no-no and she does it anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, she makes quite a stir when she arrives, as every Cinderella girl does.
Obviously. The most beautiful.
Honestly, Hilary Duff, A Cinderella Story. This is her entrance.
Yeah. Yep.
It is.
Oh my God. Okay. Everything is derivative.
Then we get a perspective switch because this is written in third person. And so she kind of does that third person thing where you get all of the characters' perspectives at little snippets depending on whose perspective you should best be in.
Third person omniscient.
Good job, Katie.
I did it. Sorry. I was so unconfident.
I don't know if I can recover from that.
Benedict obviously spots her in the crowd and he's like, there it is.
But he's on his way to dance with Penelope Featherington.
Which is so sad.
And he sees Sophie walk in and he immediately forgets about Penelope. And then as a reader, like, what? No. Yep. Like,
that's kind of mean.
You got to be a good guy too.
Yep. I also love that his mom is like, you were supposed to dance with Penelope and all of a sudden you were gone. What the fuck happened? And he's like, well.
I saw the love of my life instantly.
Well, that's not really a good enough reason. Sorry.
He goes and scoops Sophie up out of the ballroom. He's like, let's dance. She's like, I have no idea how to.
That part, she's like, dog, I can't do this.
And you see that in the trailer for, the upcoming season, which is glorious. Fun. He takes her onto the balcony. It's love at first sight is what this whole story is. Yeah. So you have to be okay with that trope. That can turn a little people off sometimes.
That's true. Especially because they do have like a pretty robust conversation and they like talk about like a pretty wide range of topics where it's like, I could see in a Regency setting that talking about those things would feel a little bit like revelational. And you're like, oh, wow, I feel like a real connection. But it's definitely like glossed over because he, then proceeds to think about her for like 4 years.
Well, also, he takes her out onto a private balcony and there's no chaperones.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't stop to think, oh, this wonderful, like, aristocratic young woman is spending time alone on a balcony with me. Like, she would have a family member or chaperone with her who would be like, the hell you're not going out there with him.
Yeah, especially because they run into Colin after this little tete-a-tete, and he's like, y'all just hanging out there? It's like, okay, this whole family is ruffians.
But they have this interlude of romance where they're dancing, and then it suddenly gets a little bit more intimate, and then this is probably the best, like, intimate glove removal scene I think I've ever read.
Oh, yeah, sure. Everything is derivative.
I don't want to get into too many details here.
That's fair.
But this is like the moment in the scene, and they are talking about, like you said, exchanging these very personal details. And then the clock strikes midnight.
Yep. And she's got a
Dong.
skadoodle. Very realistic. Biblically correct donging of... Sorry. I cannot think of what other word that would be. Chiming? Okay. Anyway, she has to skadoodle.
She skadoodles away from the dong to her carriage.
Relatable.
And she is running through the ballroom. Benedict is holding her glove that has the monogram on it.
Yeah.
And he's trying to track her down, but she's fast, makes it to the carriage, and gets home.
She a track star. Sorry. TikTok audio. Dog.
She gets back home. The bitches get back home too, and everything seems okay.
We have lost
We
it.
are done. And the next morning, they're talking about the ball, and oh, what a great time. And then Araminta sees that her shoes are scuffed, and she's like, these are new shoes. They're not new shoes. And Sophie's like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'll clean them some more. So she goes up to the closet and she's cleaning the shoes, and then while Sophie is cleaning these shoes, there's a visitor to the house, and it is Benedict Bridgerton, who, with his mother's help, figured out that the Penwood crest was on the glove. And he's like, maybe it's one of the daughters. And he gets there and he's like, oh, it's definitely not one of the daughters.
Nope. I will say the series of events that leads Araminta to discovering that it was Sophie who, like, she went to the masquerade, I feel like was well done, because sometimes it's really easy as an author to over villainize and kind of cartoon, I don't know the verb for that, but to make them seem kind of like silly. But she like put together the tidbits. She's like, my shoes are scuffed, and then my dress was recently laundered even though it shouldn't have been, and then a bunch of boxes were pulled out. Oh, you're like Sherlock Holmes.
Well, and it's Posey who is watching Benedict from the window, and she sees him pull the glove out of his pocket after he leaves, and Posey's like, oh, that looks like one of the old gloves. And then you get Araminta's
like full connecting all of the dots. But it was refreshing, because sometimes it's like, oh, she just knows, and it's like, well, okay,
no,
like,
there was
how?
reasons she knew.
Yeah.
And she loses her fucking mind. Yeah. She goes up and she basically fires Sophie, and so she says, get the fuck out of my house. Like, take all of your things and go. Not that you have any things.
Which is more crazy because she's never been paying Sophie. So she's like go die.
Nothing. And also she says, oh, you're going to leave tomorrow, but I'm going to lock you in the closet, in the shoe closet.
Yep, to fix my shoes that are unfixable because they're silk. And obviously, you fucking dumbass, you can't buff silk.
And as Sophie is sitting in the closet, like pondering her future because it's very bleak, she spies a pair of shoe clips, jeweled shoe clips. And she's like, well, I have no money because I haven't been getting a wage.
What is a shoe clip?
It looks like a pin or a brooch that clips into your
Oh, to like the front to make it
it pretty.
Okay, I
so
know
when
what
you
we're
when
talking
you walk
about.
down the stairs, you see the cute little shoe and pick it out.
I did not realize that was removable. That's clever. Okay, sorry.
We're nearing the end here. She decides to steal the shoe clips. She feels very guilty, which is very much a Sophie thing. She feels guilty for taking shoe clips.
Yeah.
And she leaves the next day. And this is kind of the end of part 1, because the book is broken up into part 1 and part 2. I think it's a pretty safe place for us to start.
Yeah. I did not realize that it was broken into part 1 and part 2, so news to me. Yeah, that is a good stopping point, Julia Quinn.
So yeah, we will finish the Cinderella story next week from our shelf viewers.
We'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. Like what you've been hearing? Like and subscribe to us on YouTube or Patreon at Not Another Heroine to support our growing library and get access to exclusive bonus content.
Ready for the next page? We post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.